Hi, friends. My name is Host Eric. I'm the host of Talking with Famous People, and today I'm going to talk to you about some interesting things I found in some declassified CIA documents. And you can see that this soundbite I did has quite a few of these documents in it, these PDFs, and I just sort of been clicking them at random and looking at them this morning for kicks. Anyhow, let's look at a couple of these interesting things that I've discovered. See what you think about them. First one is this one here. It's a memo. It's probably around 57, 55. The ones around it are dated that same time. This is not dated, but it's a memo. Observation of a flying object near the place is blacked out. From what I can deduce from this, it's probably somewhere in Eastern Europe, East Germany, or USSR. During my trip inside the MIA, as a member of MIA party, I was one of four persons who observed an unusual flying object in the MIA area. Following are the details. Now, he does a very officious job of articulating exactly what happened. Our trip from Mya by train was planned according to timetables available in Mya, and we were originally scheduled to leave Mya during daylight. Apparently, the Mya officials responsible in Mya did not know about certain changes which had been made in the train schedules, and our schedule was altered in Mya. We left Mya at about 1600 hours, 1500 hours on Tuesday, Mya. Our accommodations were in the soft sleeping car of the international. We're in a soft sleeping car of the international type, consisting of six two-person compartments. The car was occupied as follows: porter, probably empty; three crossed out; four, something, and an American citizen who was on private business; five, a mad general with a hat who wore a hat with a mia. So this is obviously some foreign country in which they're identifying relevant CIA stuff, I guess. And then six, a young civilian, about 26 years old, probably. Yeah. This probably says his nationality, right? The car was arranged with compartments on all sides. Um, about 10 minutes after we had passed Mia, Mia returned to compartment 4 and with great excitement said, I just saw a flying saucer. The time was around, I'm not sure, it's 1310 hours. I'm not sure what that says. When asked where he had seen it, Mia went to the window of the compartment saying, turn off the lights. Mia also went to the window and I looked over their shoulders. Said, I just saw it coming up. Or Mia said, I just saw it coming up. When the lights were out, I saw through the window to the south of the train an object resembling a searchlight at the end of a horizon, perhaps a little above the horizon. It did not throw a beam, but instead glowed with a reddish light, something like that of glowing electric hot plate. It looked like a circular light standing on edge, facing the train, perhaps tilted slightly downward. I had the impression the searchlight was a distance of perhaps 4 to 6 miles. The land was flat and without buildings, installations, or special vegetation. At the time of observation, twilight had fallen and the first few stars were out, but it was still light enough for us to see distance. The sky was clear with no clouds. At this point, I said, I don't see it. Mia said, here, it's coming again. And the other said, yes, it's coming up. It's whirling. I then noticed an object slightly to the right of the searchlight. It had two shining eyes and seemed to be rising vertically. It then seemed to change course and approach the train on a more horizontal course, but with uh, ascending slightly, traveling northward. I'm not certain whether the body of the object changed position, but the eyes, which seemed to be fixed on the side of the object, uh, facing the train during the escort, continued to face towards it. So, this is a really interesting observation about a unidentified flying object. But my conclusion about it, given everything else they're saying, and particularly about how interested the person was in figuring out where exactly he was. So it says, a few minutes later, Meow returned to the compartment uh, and suggested that I, as interpreter, ask the porter the name of the last station we had passed. I was reluctant to do so for fear of arousing the porter's suspicion. However, Mia insisted, and at about 5 to 7 minutes after the observation, I approached the porter in the Mia and in a roundabout way approached the question of the names of the last and next stations, whether they were large, and how long we would stop at the next station, commenting that we should like to obtain some water or tea. The porter answered in only general terms, not naming the stations, but saying the next station will be a longer stop and you will be able to get off and buy something. Clearly, they're in some sort of authoritarian country, and probably what they saw was something that they weren't supposed to see that had to do with that country's research and development stuff. Probably. Because, as you see here, it says, after the stop at the next station, he gave me the name of the stations. The porter may have shown some slight excitement when he pulled the shades, but I do not believe that his excitement was connected with our observation. I believe that the case may have been his failure to follow the standard rule on trains to pull shades as soon as it becomes dark. He was late in doing this, and no doubt we were passing through some restricted area where such instructions must be observed strictly. I do not believe that either of the other two passengers in the car tipped off the porter that something important had happened. Before dark, the Mia in compartment 5 had asked the porter to prepare his bed, and because he had to get up at 0200 hours to get off the train, as far as I know, he went to bed quite soon, sometime before the occurrences. The civilian from compartment 6 was seen in the aisle, I guess, sometime after the occurrence, but not at the time of the occurrence. And then all these relatively relevant things here at the end, like, I did not hear any noise which might be associated with the object. I believe that the sound of an airplane engine could have been heard over the train noises, if there had been one. I best observed the eyes of the object when the object approached the train. They were distinctly two in number, set apart at a fixed distance, but I cannot estimate how far apart they were. I observed no other small lights on the object. I do not recall seeing any military traffic or installations of any significance within half an hour of either side of the point of observation. Only Mia and I were debriefed in Mia, and at that debriefing, Mia was the principal speaker. I provided only a few supplemental details. Mia was not debriefed on the subject, except for the debriefing in Mia. I have not discussed this matter with other members of the Mia party since the occurrence. And then it's all summarized down here in steps. And then here's the actual handwritten note that it's been typed out from. I think. So this is one interesting thing. Is it proof of a UFO? Oh, no, I'm not trying to say that. Certainly is interesting. Check this one out. This is also probably from around 1955, 56, something like that. Chief Petty Officer Patuk's Naval Air Station picked up on radar 3 consecutive trackings on December 19th between 3:15 and 3:30. And the initial signaling of 2 objects 10 miles apart, second picked up on 3.9 miles, blah, 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 blah. But check this out. Traveling towards base at estimated speed of 6,000 miles per hour. What? 6,000 miles per hour. The third reading on the screen of the UFO dropped off the screen about the same time, checked with FAA station in Salisbury, Maryland, which had picked up messages from U.S. Coast Guard repeating sightings of UFO. Based on radar beam data, altitude of UFOs estimated in range between 8,000 and 25,000 feet. Um, so this is 3 sightings from this date here of December 19th. Now that's, what do you make of that? I don't know. I know that they didn't have any planes back then that went 6,000 miles per hour. They probably still don't. So this was an interesting one I found. This was from 57. On 10th of December 57, I returned the 5 photographs of flying saucers, which were obtained from Mia. Mia asked if it would be possible for me to submit to him any evaluations that we might have made based on these photographs. Basically, can you tell me, what am I right? Are these UFOs? I said, it's very doubtful, but I'll pass on the request to headquarters. He explained that he was attempting to set up a TV show to brief the public, that if and when they ever see any UFOs, to call him, and possibly, if possible, take a photograph of the object so he could be able to keep the public abreast of the latest developments. He then asked me if it would be possible for him to mention on this program that an intelligence organization had interviewed him and viewed the photographs and thought they were of interest. My immediate reply was in the negative. This was accepted graciously by me. He then asked me could write a letter to the director asking the director's opinion about the evaluation of the photographs. The guy's like, hey, it's America, you can write whoever you want. This memo is being forwarded for any interest or it may have and to prevent any repercussions or flaps. Okay, so I want to know what those 5 photographs are, you know, and who it was who submitted them. All right, so now let's look at this one, January 9, 1958. This is a really interesting one, okay? We've contacted Dr. Davidson by telephone, advising him that we cannot resolve his problem concerning the space message and its transmitter because records on the matter have been destroyed by the evaluating agency? Davidson accepted this statement with the comment that he had been told this before, that he now had a second article for publication concerning Air Force handling of space sightings in the hands of the Pentagon Security Review people, which he thought was mild enough to possibly pass their muster, and he hinted that he might wish to take up again at a later date the matter of this particular message. Paragraph 2. We appreciate that there have been many cooks in the kitchen on this dish, and that as a result, the extraordinarily non-committal and evasive answer we were instructed to give Davidson was perhaps the only one possible if we were to avoid crossing up previous statements of our own and other involved agencies to this man. But the answer was hardly fair to Davidson, and one not likely to be fully accepted by him. Totally blacked out third paragraph. We are sure more will be heard from Davidson. But, okay, space message? What? His problems concerning the space message and its transmitter. What space message are they talking about? Did we get a message from outer space or something that we never heard of? Well, sure enough, Mr. Davidson comes back again, and yeah, this guy was right. Some PDFs later, here he is again, Mr. Davidson. And you want to talk about some bullshit, some bullshit TI here. So, number 1 is a letter from Leon Davidson to the CIA. As a result of the action taken by the IAC on 4 December 1952, a scientific intelligence advisory panel was convened January 53. This panel consisted of the following scientists. Meow, 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 meow. The panel concerned itself with the evaluation of any possible threat to national security by unidentified flying objects. The panel issued a report dated 17 January 1953. This report was classified secret. And so the letters from Leon Davidson and Donald Cavey to the DCI concerned themselves primarily with this book, At the time of the scientific net panel met, Rupert was a captain in the Air Force and attended the panel meetings. His book, however, is concerned with the identification of unidentified flying objects. Rupert's statements regarding the mission of the panel are an error. He has led the reader to believe the panel's mission was to identify the flying objects and make recommendations on methods to further identify such objects. This is the basis for the apparent contradictions which arose during the Mike Wallace television interview. This is also the basis for Mr. Cahoe's misgivings. So, a panel that's trying to determine whether or not these unidentified flying objects are a threat to national security is not a panel that's concerned at all with identifying what the UFOs are. I mean, talk about some extensional pruning, as they call it in the world of fallacies. Boy, oh boy. In late October 1957, then Declassified report. Okay, so there you go. It is apparent from reading Mr. Davidson's letter that Mike Wallace had a copy of the scientific panel report. In addition, the association of the CIA with the U.S. Air Force in the selection of the panel was revealed during the television interview. Therefore, the panel members have been associated with the CIA contrary to their wishes and contrary to the CIA's desires. And this is the declassified report, which basically says UFOs are not a threat to national security, so that's all we need to say about it. Now, here's an interesting one. Let's take a look at it a little more closely. Apparently, Major Kehoe is persisting in his effort to find out if CIA agent told Mia of unidentified flying objects not to make public information about their sightings. As background, the following is a quotation from his 13 March 1953 memorandum to DCI. We should also like to know whether it is true that in one or more cases, agents of the CIA have told UFO witnesses not to make public information in regards to their sightings. We have one report to the effect that a witness was interviewed recently about a sighting which involved a photograph and that he was peremptorily told not to make this matter public or reveal the fact that he had been interrogated by CIA representatives. If this is not true, we should like to know so that we can assess the value of similar reports. If it is true and the witness has said he can name the two CIA agents involved, then we should like to know on what authority was he ordered to keep silent. Since the Air Force states there is no security involved, and I have personally been assured by Air Force officers and by high-ranking Naval Academy classmates of my own that I was in no way doing a disservice to the country by my own revelations, I am seriously concerned, as is our board, with this apparent censorship. If it does exist, we would like to know under what laws and by what authority it has been established, and also by the reasons for requesting witnesses to keep silent. What a great paragraph, you know? What a great American, you know? That's fantastic. Here's a very interesting one. Your referenced interesting memorandum has been reviewed thoroughly within this office. Although my Applied Sciences Division assumes responsibility for UFOs, I consider it appropriate to refer this case to the Air Force, wherein primary community responsible lies. Referral was accomplished by forwarding a copy of your memorandum to AFSIN. Your third paragraph opens an interesting question to which I am not at all certain I have the solution. Nevertheless, for you to procure Mr. Fine's photographs and determine more about his experiments, my suggestions are: test you approach him, and a bunch of stuff whited out, perhaps as one interested in purchasing photographs or photographic research. Then you seek advice from the AD/O relative to the other strategies of approach with which he may well be familiar. Okay, so what's this paragraph 3? We'll look up here. We'll call paragraph, well, here's paragraph 3. In view of, well, let me start at the top, okay, because this is pretty nuts. Detailed analysis of the MIA on 19th November 1964 and review of associated correspondence indicates that there was, in fact, no high-altitude, ultra-high-speed UFO north of MIA during the MIA period. There were, however, apparently valid traces and/or observations of unidentified aircraft in the vicinity of the MIA on 16, 17, 18, 19, 24, and 24 November 1964. Now, if you remember, the date November 19th has come up before. It may be the same November 19th. That one wasn't dated with a year. Relative to the incident during the evening of 19th of November, the U.S. Navy FNAA pilot was able to distinguish the object as a delta shape about the size of a jet fighter, reported it as having much higher performance, and estimated the object speed to be in excess of Mach 3. The MIA reported a radar track in excess of 3,800 knots. During this incident, were takes of the MIA presentation. Analysis of these photographs show a good track in excess of, I'm not sure what that is, 300 nautical miles, I guess, for the object in question. The object was flying a course of about 165 degrees north relative to the MIA at a relative speed of about 465 knots. That's based on photographs. His third paragraph here says, in view of the MIA and pilot observations, so some other kind of data that confirms these pilot observations, at the time the MIA radar was undergoing an evaluation MIA program, hence the use of a recording camera. So in other words, the reason they were recording to have this on film is because they were doing a test of some sort. Now you might say, well, that test just proves that the radar wasn't reliable. Well, in view of the MIA, which isn't specified, and pilot observations, it is concluded that the so-called UFO on 19 November was probably a delta-wing fighter of a type having significantly higher climb performance than the F-8C, I think it says, at the 50,000 foot altitude range. Based on the limited information provided in the associated correspondence, other objects reported during the period 16 and 24 November would appear to be unidentified aircraft. So significantly higher climb performance than the best American plane at 50,000 feet. Apparently, missile test firings were scheduled during this time period, and it's conceivable the area in question could have been an attractive target for reconnaissance. The MIA was located 325 nautical miles from the Casters. During the 19 November incident, well within MiG range. The USSR has a MiG-21 reconnaissance configuration. There is no evidence at hand to suggest or deny any MiG-21 reconnaissance activity based, So this guy goes, your third paragraph opens an interesting question to which I am not at all certain I have the solution. An interesting question. He says there were all these sightings. The one on the 19th was determined to be a super advanced Russian plane or something, and the rest of the ones between 16 and 24th were just unidentified something. This is backed up not just by pilot observations, but something else that's blacked out here. And again, I point out the fact that the guy said it was going in excess of 6,000 miles an hour. Which, I mean, back in this day and age, no way, right? So anyway, those are just some interesting things I found just by clicking this shit randomly, clicking on this, clicking on these PDFs randomly, seeing what I pop up with, like, how about this one? Mrs. Sora Hunt of the Air Force Office of Information called the undersigned twice on August 16th and once on August 18th. The first time she asked for a response had gotten out, so I told her it had. She requested the phone number of the officer responsible for issuing the reply, and I gave her. It's just a request for declassification back in 1966. So people were trying to get shit declassified even way back then. Some of them are super boring like this, most of them are. How about this one? Attached is one copy of a tabulation of the statements made by each member of the party relative to the unidentified flying object sighted by them October 4th, 1955, while on trains from Baku to Tiflis. While on the train from Baku to Tiflis. I wonder if this is the incident that they blacked out all the locations on before. Who knows? That's the kind of fun thing you can do if you look at these UFO things, though. I tell you, it's kind of a kick. So, hopefully you enjoyed that. If you didn't, well, that's just story of my life. This is another in a series of ongoing failures. Have a great day. Try to fail less than me. And don't forget to eat plain cheese.